Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, when you start a business, it is beneficial to start with the end in mind. Clarify the vision. What is that plan, that exit route that you're coming to? Not always the first thing on your mind. My guest today, Tracy Gunn, has had her own experience in that regard and has been helping others to begin with the end in mind and to, if they've gotten to that place where they haven't started with that thought, get to that place where they can have that clear vision to help reduce that anxiety and continue to push forward. So, Tracy, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this. This is my favorite subject.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, it takes a little bit of background to get to that subject. So, let's talk a little bit about where you started as an entrepreneur and how you progressed to that point where you actually did start to think about this topic.
Sure. My first business, like I was in a place where things were going crazy in my life, and I wanted to create a world where I was in charge.
Yep.
And so I created my first business, which was a candy store. I'm actually here today. And then after a while, I got bored, like a lot of entrepreneurs, and I thought, I need more. So I did a restaurant.
Sure.
And then after a little while, I did another restaurant. And then I did another candy store because, sometimes more
Hmm.
feels like it's going to be the answer
Yeah.
until I kind of hit the wall. And I thought, I'm tired. I don't want to do all this. I was running 4 businesses. I was stressed out. And I thought, I'll just sell it. I'll
Uh-huh.
get out. I'll start over. I'll do whatever I want. I had a new grandbaby. All, priorities
Yeah.
change. People change, they lose their passion, whatever. And so I hired a broker, which was stressful and
Hmm.
scary. And he told me that I had nothing worth selling, which was
Mm.
awful.
That's
And
disheartening.
exactly. And after I cried a little bit, I decided, wait a minute, I think there's something here. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And so what happened was is I just took one business and I thought, I'm going to fix what he doesn't see. I see it. I'm going to fix it so it's seeable, and then build the value and see if I can fix it. I gave myself 6 months,
Yep.
and I found a buyer in 3 months. And I realized that I was running 4 businesses, and I never once thought about, uh-oh, what just happened? Oh, sorry, my screen went black.
Okay.
I never once thought, what about the end? Like, what does that look like? What is my
Yep.
plan here? I just, like most business owners think, let's just keep going, keep building, keep adding more
Yep.
until you get burnt out. And then it's an emergency situation. And so that's kind of
Right.
how I got into this. And so found a buyer for one. I had a contractual issue with another landlord. So we closed one because it was at an airport and I couldn't go somewhere else.
Sure.
Um, and then I had a partner earn in at another. And so I've just like been learning all about the different ways to exit.
Yep.
And what I found was most people have no plan in mind.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's something that can be scary when you get to that point, especially when you've thought, okay, well, I'm tired. I'll just sell this.
Yeah.
And then you hear from someone, well, you don't really have something worth selling right now. So we need to make some changes.
Right.
Now,
And also, was it true? I mean,
yeah,
the thing is, I was not armed with the information that
right.
would have been helpful. Thankfully, I believed in myself and what I had
Yep.
built.
Yep.
But, a lot of people are told that they don't have anything of value by a broker, let's say, but
Sure.
maybe they do. And with a few little
Yeah.
tweaks, or maybe asking somebody else, they
Hmm.
do have something. And,
Right.
small business owners are like superheroes. They
Hmm.
like chart this new territory, they take all the risks, they build, they dedicate themselves, and I just want them to win, you know.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Let's end with a win. So,
Yes, definitely. You want to start from that position that you're pushing towards that win.
mhm,
Like any
exactly.
type of event, competition, it's not a competition here, but at the same time, you do experience the joys and the
Yeah.
pleasures
Yeah.
that you have that win, just like it would be in a sport.
Hmm.
Now, You had mentioned that you'd started one business
Mhm.
because you also had that desire to have that control, that ability to define your own schedule and
Right.
routines, but then also decided, wow, I'm good. This is good, but I want a little more. I want to do
Mhm.
something more. So then you start a second business, and then a third, and then a fourth.
I know.
Now, how does that, with that mindset there, talk a little bit about the mindset that you have coming into that decision to start a second or third or fourth business at the time when you were doing that, and
Mhm.
how you might think about it differently now if
Mhm.
you were to have the knowledge you do now
Yeah.
when you were to start a second, third, fourth business.
Right. I mean, I had gone to a place where I had the one business, the candy store was, I had put systems in
Hmm.
place, it was
Yeah.
operational. I'm in a town which has a little tourism, not a lot. And
Yep.
so I knew it kind of had plateaued. I didn't really want to get into the e-com space. Well, COVID, we changed our mind, but
Yep.
we really were kind of dependent on our town. And I wanted to do something more. And I thought, well, I mean, if this is doing its own thing, and I could have a few touch points here and there, but it doesn't need me every day. And I set it up like that.
Yep.
So why not try something else? And again,
Right.
sometimes, the world, the universe will serve up an opportunity. And it's not always for you to take. Sometimes it's for you to
Sure.
say no.
You're
But
right.
I hadn't quite learned that yet. And I thought, well, let me try. Because, I think, again, like I talked about small business owners being superheroes, like we love the challenge and the adventure and the new
Yep.
and the excitement and the adrenaline and the fear, all those things. And after a while, my store that was kind of running itself didn't provide those things. So I was looking
Sure.
maybe
Yep.
adrenaline, I don't know.
Yep.
And the
Right.
right opportunity, I mean, I toyed with the opportunity for a while and people kept coming back to me. And I was like, well, maybe I should pursue this, right? And how
Yep.
can it dovetail into my other one? Because we do cupcakes. I was baking over there in the restaurant. There were all these things, but I had
Yeah.
taken a lot of what I had done and it was the next level to
Okay.
challenge myself.
Yep.
The idea of more. And I think because I speak, at least for myself, like I always feel like I rise to the occasion, right? I
Sure.
bet on me. And so
Yep.
the more I pile on, the more I seem to get done. And so it
Yep.
seems like it's endless until it's not, until
Right.
you hit that wall and you think, ouch, I'm tired. I mean,
Right.
my normal day at the end where I really decided I need to make a change was I was, touching base with the candy store in the morning, running the one restaurant in the afternoon, going to the second restaurant at night and going home at, midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning. I mean,
Yeah.
they always running 18-hour days. And again, I wasn't running
Mhm.
everything. I had some
Yeah.
systems in place,
Yep.
but at my big restaurant was 6,500 square feet. It was
Sure.
humongous. And it
Yeah.
had so many different touch points. And what I found now that I look back is that I was doing it, but I
Yep.
wasn't doing any of it really well
Okay.
because there's only so
Mm.
much brain power that you have. And
Right.
and one key player in your staff or situation happens,
Yep.
everything falls apart. And that, being reliant on staff, it allows you to do those things. But that also, the negative part of that is you're relying on those people. And if they,
Sure.
leave or
Yep.
call out or whatever, everything
Yeah.
stops.
Yeah. They don't
Yeah.
have that same level of commitment,
No.
or they don't have the ownership really that you do. So your commitment has to be higher to be able to continue to push into it and
Yeah.
push towards success. So you do have those experiences with employees who they may be doing well at their job, but they might find something else that is better for them individually,
Absolutely.
and then they leave, and now you're stuck with having to figure out, how do I figure out how do I fill
Mhm.
those responsibilities?
Yes, and train them, and if you didn't
Yeah.
have the training in place, and I mean, I chose 2 industries that are pretty hard,
Yeah.
where you're
Sure.
dependent on people,
Right.
versus being a solopreneur, which might have been
Yep.
easier, right?
Yeah.
And so, looking back, some of the life lessons is I want to work smarter, not harder. I recently
Yeah.
just had an opportunity for another restaurant, and it was
Mhm.
beautiful and perfect, and I could have been open in a week. I mean,
Yeah.
I know how to do this, but I
Yep.
thought, stop. Do I want to go down that rabbit hole again? Right?
Right.
And because
Yeah.
did I learn the lesson of, do I want to work smarter, not harder? Do I want to
Right.
do things that are more interesting to me? Do I want to be reliant on staff
Yep.
as much as I am? Like all those things. So,
Sure.
entrepreneurship is all about learning.
Right.
And if you don't learn the lesson, it comes around again.
Yes. Yes. It reminds you.
It sure does.
Now, thinking about somebody who is in business now and maybe has never really thought about selling their business,
Mhm.
but or perhaps they have, but they have no idea how that would even be valued to somebody else. What is a process someone could go through to determine the value of their business, or how would they even consider the value of their business?
Right. I mean, when we do little master classes and
Uh huh.
workshops and things, and we could do it quick right here. I mean, it's very a down and dirty version is to
Yeah.
take your profitability for last year, like what you told the
Uh huh.
IRS you was your profit.
Yep.
And if it's under $250,000 and it's your business is run by you, like
Hmm.
seller discretionary earnings, we would call
Yep.
that, you're going to do a 1x probably. You'll be, if
Hmm.
you're running everything, it's going to be a hard sell, but
Sure.
you could put things in place like I did, set up some systems, hire some key staff, and have
Yep.
it be transferable. So
Yep.
if you did your profit and it was under 250,000, let's just give it a good number, then that's
Hmm.
going to be a 1x. So it's 1 year. That's what you could expect to earn if you
Okay.
sold, provided
Yep.
all the other pieces were transferable.
Sure.
If you get to the
Yeah.
next level, let's just say 250 to 400,000 or 500,000 profit. Now you're at a
Yep.
2x, maybe a 3x, depending on the industry, those kind of things. And then you get to the next level up where you could get to 3 or 4. Now, the
Yeah.
clincher here, and one of the strategies we apply is like if you were to professionalize your business, now all of a
Hmm.
sudden your multiple based on your profit is there is no end in sight. It could be 5 to 10 to 15 depending on the
Yeah.
industry. So
Sure.
just putting in some key players could really change your
Yeah.
profit without having to like massively increase your sales and profit, right?
Yep.
So that's an easy way to think it. But most business owners, small business owners that we usually deal with, are talking anywhere from 100 to 300 or 400,000 in profit.
Yeah.
So we're talking a 1 to 2x, which is
Sure.
not what they thought.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yep.
Now you can add in some things. Often we use our businesses to the benefit of the tax code, right? We
Sure.
buy things and we can
Yep.
add in things or take out, but that's like a down and dirty version. And
Hmm.
what I find is, 9 out of 10 business owners have no idea what their business is worth. They don't know how to even
Okay.
figure it out. They don't know there's
Yeah.
a multiple involved. They don't know. And some of those things are you in a business that is a trade or industry that's declining or increasing,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And that's a
Yep.
part of it as well. So, I mean, I hope that makes sense for people. Basically, take your
Yeah.
profit and do a 1 or 2 if you're on the lower end, if do a 2 or 3 if you're kind of mid. And then if you get to like 1 million or more, you're probably at a 3 or a 4.
Okay.
But think
Yep.
about that, long term, that you worked 20, 30, 10 years building something and that you
Hmm.
leave only with 1 or 2 years of profit. Like that is what
Right.
you leave with. So there is another strategy where you think to yourself, okay, well, if I'm not going to sell,
Yep.
maybe I could keep it, but exit. So again, professionalize, have a few
Uh-huh.
touch points of people who want to retire, but
Hmm.
they're not going to get enough for it to be able to retire. So maybe the strategy for them is to think about how to get themselves out of 95% of it, but
Right.
retain ownership.
Yes.
right? And there's a lot of different ways you can look at that, but it's really step one is to think about, okay, what could I sell for today?
Yep.
And is it sellable? Is it like
Right.
if I handed it over to Johnny, who's willing to give me what I want,
Yep.
would it fall apart?
Right. Yes.
Right? And if it
Yes.
and if it would fall apart, step one after that is, okay, how do I fix those things so it wouldn't be? I call that being transferable, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of how we take a look at it. And the flip side of that is also, so like I look at it as two pieces, right? What is it
Hmm.
worth right now? But also, what is your plan? Like what are you
Right.
willing to do?
Yep.
Do you want to fix it? Do you want to improve it? Do you want, like for some people, their answer is liquidation because they're just
Yeah.
mentally and physically done. And that's okay,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
But really figuring out what is it you want for yourself,
Right.
right? You want, and, and you set a plan. And that's the part of that planning part, right? If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. Like
Right.
you have to have a plan, like, okay, by the time I'm 55 or 70 or whatever it is, I plan to be finished.
Yeah.
So how do I get to that place?
Yeah.
And I need to be finished and I need it to make this amount of money
Yeah.
for me when I leave. So that's
Right.
kind of like the two step for me. And that's what I did just naturally.
Yep.
But I find it's not talked about a lot. A lot of people, unless you're there and ready,
Yep.
it's not on your thoughts at all.
Right. Right. Yes. And so you're giving us some highlight and a high level of some of
Mhm.
the things that you talk with people about as you're working with them individually to help identify what is that plan? What is that vision? Where do they want to see themselves? In how many years do they want to see
Right.
themselves getting there?
Mhm.
Now, if someone was interested in working on this process with you, kind of talk through some of those steps that you go through and helping someone to create that vision and that pathway.
Right. So, I mean, again, we talked about the two things we really focus on. So,
Yeah.
anytime anyone comes into our world,
Hmm.
we do this, what we call the easy method.
Yep.
And basically, it's figuring out what their exit plan is because everybody's different.
Yes.
Right? What everybody is willing to do is different. So, like, for example, I had one gentleman who owned a restaurant catering company
Yep.
in New Jersey, and was after COVID, and his numbers had gone down, and we
Yeah.
came up with all these
Yep.
strategies of what
Definitely.
he could do to exit, and he just didn't want to do any of those things. And for
Right.
him, his answer was liquidation. He wants to
Yep.
be done. But he had all the facts and he could make a wise decision about what he wanted. And then he just had to set up the plan for that, right?
Yeah.
So, same is true for other people who maybe want to. I had another gentleman who had multiple parts of his business, not just
Yep.
multiple businesses, but he had offshore manufacturing, he had wholesale, he had retail, he had e-com.
Hmm.
And so, what he started to do was carve off parts,
Okay.
sell a piece so he could focus on the one that he thought would give him the biggest return. So everybody's exit plan is going to be different,
Yep.
but it's really about defining, and it's kind of I think it's a fun process because you're really just dreaming about what your dream exit
Right.
would look like and
Yes.
what your number could be. Because once you figure out what your target is,
Yep.
it's very easy to get there. And we have like roadmaps and things like that. But the idea is once you have a target in mind, everything else gets weeded out by that target,
Yeah. No,
right?
I
All the
like that.
distractions. The
Yeah.
second part is also then we do an assessment of what do you have, and it's
Hmm.
not just what is your profit, but what do you have that's also valuable, whether
Sure.
that's equipment, whether that's real
Yep.
estate, whether that's a customer list, and what could you do,
Right.
right? There's a lot of those things. Once you have kind of an inventory of what creates value for you in your
Hmm.
business, well, then that brings us to the third step, which is kind of identifying pain points, but also opportunities,
Right.
right? So for myself, what I was able to identify was that, for example, I'll give you an example. I
Hmm.
had a POS system for my restaurant where
Yep.
um, to ring up everybody and cash everybody out. Well, it had an internal tech that was a loyalty program that I just
Mhm.
never turned on.
Yep.
Magically, I turned it on. Now it was like magic. It didn't cost me anymore. Didn't cost me. I had to teach my staff and
Yep.
print some business cards to like invite people to join it. But magically, I now had a viable list, a way to communicate with them, and I knew
Mhm.
what they bought, what their average cart
Yeah.
value was. And so that was an easy thing for me to change.
Yes.
I just never thought about it, right?
Right.
And so the third part is we identify, and also what are your pain points? What are the
Mhm.
things that are making you want to, run away from your business?
Right.
What are the things you
Yep.
hate about your business that are making you think about leaving? If you could
Yep.
fix those things, you could greatly extend how long you stay with your business, which also
Yes.
could greatly extend or increase what the value will be when you finally go. So that's
Yes.
kind of how we work our first like initial month or two, really just locking those things in, knowing they're not going to be perfect because
Yes.
people change. Um,
Absolutely.
and then we also kind of create some type of succession plan because
Yep.
life happens.
Yep.
And
Right.
you need a kind of a plan. I think one day I thought about, gosh, if I was going to Mexico with my husband, and I thought, if this plane crashes, my poor children and my 4 businesses, and
Mhm.
trying to figure out all the 40 staff and all the details and how do they get paid, and all like the cleanup would have been
Yeah.
awful for them. That is
Right.
a terrible thing to do to people you love. Um,
Yes.
and so we work on that part as well. So that's kind of how we start. And then we
Yeah.
kind of, once we know where you are, where you want to go, and what you need to fix first to get you there, it's
Yep.
pretty straightforward. And then we just work. We have a success path that
Yep.
we think that hit all the points. We can go through it once, and then you get to the end, you think, I want to do that again. And you go back
Yep.
through, right?
Yep.
And fix and improve the next level. And
Right.
it's as long as you want to do it. I mean,
Yep.
I think it also renews the spirit a little bit, right? From the
Yes.
humdrum every day, because now you have a mission again, right?
Right. Right. And then a pathway and someone that's coming alongside you to assist you and
Yes.
support you through that
Mhm.
has gone through some of the similar
Oh,
experiences and
yeah.
has gotten ingrained into this topic to be able to help others. I
Yeah,
think that is absolutely of value to any individual in business who wants to not just be successful today, but plan for that success in the
yeah,
future. To be able to work with someone that can help them through the process.
yeah,
I've indicated this before in other podcasts that there's a lot of value in somebody who can mentor you in a process.
yeah.
And
Oh, for sure.
and I don't think that people always think about the exit plan being a
Right,
part of the present
right,
process. So
right.
that mentorship gained through that. So I like hearing that outline of the steps that you work through with somebody. Now I'm going to switch gears and ask you a question I like to ask all of the guests that I have is if you were to be handed $1 million today with no restrictions on that as to how you use it, how would you invest that in your business or another endeavor and why?
Let's see. That's a great question. For myself, I mean,
Hmm.
I think for me right now, I mean, I have other businesses, but this is my passion project. Like, I love business. I love business owners. I love our country. And I think this is like a huge upcoming issue for our country, not
Yep.
just for small business owners who maybe are burnt out or tired and after COVID and all the things, but we have 12 million small business owners who are boomers who are going to retire. And if those businesses are not ready, they're just going to close,
Yeah.
which is a huge impact on our economy and workforce. And there's just so
Right.
many things. So for me, I would double down on what we're doing and go faster,
Okay.
right? But
Yep.
the flip side of that is I would professionalize,
Yep.
hire all the fractional CFOs, CMOs, all the
Hmm.
things, because when you try to move everything forward as a small business owner, often
Hmm.
you are the pusher, but you're
Mhm.
also the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and and dreaming the dream is what most of us are really good at,
Yeah.
right? But we often take too long to get help.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that that's a great answer for that question, and I 100% agree. We often, as the entrepreneur, have that dream, that vision, but if we try and do everything to be able to
Mhm.
reach it, it does entirely slow that process down. So,
Right.
now if someone would like to reach out to you, what's the best way for someone to connect with you to find out more about the work you're doing, or perhaps just to reach out and see how they could get benefit from your work?
So we have getexitable.com is like
Okay.
the best way to reach us. It gives a little bit of story, gets you onto
Yep.
our list, can invite you to, we often hold a free master class just teaching people these things we talked about just to get their preliminary education. Because there's a huge gap, right? Because if you've never thought about retiring, you've never thought about selling. And I
Yeah.
don't mean in the crisis moment of, I wish I could set it on fire and walk away moment,
Right.
but the strategic plan ahead moment, right?
Yep.
Where we're a little saner and we're not so emotional. There is a lot to learn.
Yes.
And as we all know, business requires a lot from us. And we're always putting out the next fire. And so
Yes.
taking the time to really educate yourself about what the prospects are, what the selling climate looks like, how it works is important
Yeah.
for yourself, for your
Absolutely.
family, and for the continuation of your business. So that's the best way. And
Okay.
but I'm also on all the channels, and
Yep.
I'd love to chat about this forever.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage others to reach out to Tracy. Check out the website getexitable.com. Reach out on social media. This is an important topic from the present tense on into the future.
Mhm.
Absolutely 100% encourage people to, if you're not thinking about it, to begin doing that today.
Absolutely.
Tracy, thank you again for joining me on the show today.
I appreciate. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about this. I, I think all the people who listen to you and follow you are going to really benefit. So thanks for letting me share.
Absolutely. It's an important topic. So thank you again and wish you the best.